this is the only bit of masterclass that's going to be important coming out of my mouth. When you start on a project, you are working with the director. Everybody else is secondary noise. You and the director make a pact that you're going to do this movie together and you're going to do your utmost and your best to go and make his film great, even if it means you have to kill him sometimes. But your allegiance is with the director. And yes, what the producers say and what the studio says, and they're great comments, they're amazing comments usually. And you have to take them on board, and you want to take them on board, but you have to filter them and transform them into, is this helpful to the film the director is trying to make? Because I don't know how else to do it. Films are not made by committee. It seems like it sometimes, but not really. If you take Ron Howard, Ridley Scott, Chris Nolan, and Terry Malick, I mean, they're directors that work in very different styles, but really at the end of the day, we've all come together at the same sort of place. I have to get into his head. And and that's part of the process, because what I want to do is I want to make the movie that he wants to make. That's what I signed on for. I want to have a bit of his vision. So I work really very hard at trying to understand and have conversations about what this movie is about. And of course, the weird thing is that we don't really talk about the movie. We talk about everything else. We're trying to sort of sneak up on the subject, because ultimately he has to hand over the job of directing in a funny way to me. And the best directors, and the people I work with time and time again, I mean, they do it with, they sort of hand it over with great joy. They get excited about something new coming, somebody new coming into the party. With Terry Malick, I mean, I spent a year before Terry went off to shoot Thin Red Line. We were just talking about art, we were talking about philosophy, we were talking about paintings. The thing we sort of agreed on really early on, I had read the script, and it was 198 pages, which is a lot of script. So I said to him, Terry, might it not be a really good idea if we never talked about the script anymore? We just talked about what we want to do with the script. What's the subtext? What are the other things we want to do? And we talked it was a year-long conversation. We talked a lot about church paintings, the way the light, in Baroque painting, hits through the cloud, that ray of light. I mean, and I think that's really what those conversations are, and that's what all those directors have in common. That the conversation is one where we're trying to learn from each other, and we're trying to learn from the movie. We're trying to get the movie to tell us how to make it. There are certain questions you don't ask the director and you ask the producer, we just had this conversation which involved the largest symphony orchestra and 3 choirs working for 7 weeks. What's our budget on this? Oh, it's only 1 day of a string quartet? Okay, fine. Good that I know that now. Because you don't want to go and narrow the director's dreams by asking some of those hardcore questions. Just like he doesn't want to go and stop me by going, something, we're basically some miserable little low-budget production with a lack of imagination. Our producer is terrible. The studio doesn't care about us. But, can you just crank something out? So that's not the conversation to have. So reality is the enemy of, of imagination, or of, the dream we have. I mean, here's the thing. Nobody sets out to make a bad movie. Some movies, it doesn't matter how much talent and how many talented people are involved in it, they just derail themselves a bit. Because once you're working, once the movie is, once you're on that first day of shooting, it just propels itself forward and you just hang on for dear life most of the time. Everybody still has this image of the film composer who's waiting for the film to be shot, and then the director invites him into a screening room and shows him his masterpiece and they discuss music. That was before we got all digital and all fancy and everybody can go and cut a movie basically on an iPhone. So the idea that you have a finished picture that you can work with has gone. And the whole mechanisms of how we work has been turned around. And actually, I think to an advantage, where suddenly you get to collaborate before the movie is even made. For instance, on both Rush and Frost Nixon with Ron Howard, I mean, it originally started, we were supposed to be talking about songs that we might have in the movie before he went to shoot the movie. And it turned into 2 weeks of us actually talking about what the music can do with some of these shots. And it was actually really exciting seeing shots come in on dailies that actually were informed by this conversation about the music. It was, on the one hand, exciting, and on the other hand, it was terrifying, because now I had to actually deliver on this, you know, the grand idea, you know, oh, I can do this with this shot, you know. So the whole mechanism of filmmaking and film composing has shifted because of the way we edit things, and that the idea of a locked picture and the 12 tracks you have at the end has changed. I mean, we work hand in hand, in tandem. They're cutting picture, I'm writing music. I get to head in that direction autonomously, with an autonomous voice, because otherwise they would be doing it themselves. You know, so that's the thing. That's the thing you're always hoping for. That's the thing that you're aiming for. That you're adding something to the conversation that wasn't there before. You know, I know a couple of directors who go, you know, sometimes it's quite nice, you know, after everybody's asked me 1,000 questions, I just put the headphones on and I get a bit of Zimmer. You know, it's like, it's not like I'm answering a question, but I reset the mood, because there's a mood in the piece, or there's a mood in the writing that just informs the way things can happen. You know, I'm not trying to make more of the contribution than it's just a reflection. It's just a shadow falling across the light sometimes that informs things in a certain way. I work away from picture, but at the same time, I've seen the drawings, I've spoken to the DP. You know, I've by now read the script. I sort of know where we're heading, but the timeline has shifted of how we make movies, how the music becomes part of it. And, you know, more than one director I work with, you know, I mean, I really learned this from Peter Weir, who told me that he used to always play music on the set and always play music to his actors. It sets the mood into a certain tempo. Peter sort of got me into this idea that it's actually quite nice to have music early so that he can play it on the set. And for instance, the way I work with Ron Howard is you know, Frost Nixon, for instance, we met for 2 weeks before he even shot a single frame. We're just talking about the music, and we were coming up with things, and it sort of informs the way he gets to make the picture. Even though he's the director and he knows what he wants to do, and it's quite nice sometimes to be able to just put a set of headphones on and go, oh, what was that crazy little thing Hans was trying to work on? It's nice if a little of that turns up on the set and it influences things a little bit.